Now that I've made fun of people's ideas of skin colors being primary colors, like red and yellow, now let's get down to the fact that we are not all the same. It's pretty stupid to say that we're all the same, one big happy family, kumbaya. That's not really the case. So what I want to do in this video is talk about 11, count them, 11 different origins of people. And hopefully I catch all of them, all the way around the world, not just the U.S. Okay, Germanic peoples. Let's make this categorization. Anglo-Saxons. Remember that term WASP? Probably only if you're really old. WASP was white. Anglo-Saxon Protestant. The English? I think you can probably say that you know the English. That was a horrible thing. Or Germans. Or Dutch. Or Scandinavians. Protestant traditions like Martin Luther, who was the big Reformation of the church. Dark legacy. Colonialism, nationalism, certainly with the Germans, nationalism is a big deal, which kind of takes over caring about people that are different. Imperial racism. Oh, imperial racism. Yikes. Who's that? Well, think of it. If you're an Anglo-Saxon or you consider yourself part of the Germanic peoples, then you might be an imperial racist. Anyway, let's go on to the Celtic peoples. Celtic. I think it's Celtic and not Celtic, but let's find out. Let's go up here let me scroll up here to the Celtic peoples. The Irish, the Scots, the Welsh. I don't know who the Welsh are too well. The Bretons. Who are the Bretons? I don't even know who that is. Okay, clan traditions, oral storytelling, resistance to conquest, marginalization, subjugations under the Germanic people, English rule, and cultural suppression. Have you heard of the Irish Republican Army? Slavics. The Slavics. Let's go up here to the Slavics and see. These are kind of Eastern European and Eastern farther. Okay, these people they're different than the Germanics. They're different than the Celtics. So let's say Germanics, just so we can have a way of labeling people and putting them into a category, which we're not supposed to do. The Germanics, the Celtics. Now let's have the Slavics. And at the end of this, there'll be a quiz. You're supposed to list all of these different groups. The Slavics, the Russians, the Poles, Ukrainians. Oh my gosh, the Slavic peoples are having a war. The Russians are against the Ukrainians. And the Serbs have had their own problems. And the Poles certainly have had their problems. Orthodox Christianity, not Protestant, not Catholic, but Orthodox Christianity. Folk art, resilience through war and occupation. Maybe that says something about the Ukrainians being able to keep the fight back and so on. Historic divides, East-West European tensions, and Soviet legacy. See, a lot of the Serbs were the Slavics people were all in the Soviet Union. So that's what held that together, that cultural identity. Now we're going to really switch places and we're going to hop over the puddle or the Atlantic Ocean and let's see who we've got here. We've got the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Now remember, where did the name America come from? It came from an Italian, please, let's have some respect. An Italian Amerigo, Amerigo Vespucci. So we have Amerigo's Americas. Now let's see who we've got here with the people, or as my brother pointed out, the first peoples. The first peoples, we can just say that's kind of a nice way to say it, rather than an Indian, because these people have nothing to do with the South Asian peoples, the actual Indians. Here's some major tribes. Lakota. Have you seen Dances with Wolves? There's Lakotas. The Hopi. The Miami. I live in Miami County, so that's the home of the Miami Indians. But where are they now? Or the Miami tribes, the Miami Nation. Most of them got shoved out of Indiana, and they're now in Oklahoma. And the Inuit, and more. So there's many tribes. We could get out the map of all the tribes of the country, and that'd be a good history lesson. Deep spiritual ecology, kinship, ceremonial traditions. Sounds like it'd be great to be an indigenous American. Now, of course, they fought each other, and they had some really brutal war methods and clubs to crack each other over the head and kill each other. Here's the trauma. Genocide. Let's see. Who caused the genocide? Which of these groups that we've talked about so far caused the genocide? That would be, come on class, that would be the Germanic tribes. The Germanic tribes tried to get all of the peoples out of the system, saying that they're old-fashioned, the tribes aren't worth much, so let's not worry about it. Let's see, what else can we do? Assimilation. Well, in other words, you don't allow them to maintain their traditions. Land loss. Oh my gosh, big time land loss. Pretty much the whole United States was given up to who? The conquerors, the Germanic tribes. Now let's go to West African. Now we go across the Atlantic again, and we go to Africa and see who's there. Let's see who's there in the West Africa. I don't know that much about these people. So I don't know much about these people, so this would be a great history lesson to know about the West Africans people. Because guess what? There are many West Africans in this country. And they have a very strong voice, fortunately, and have been building that up since I was a little kid. Legacy in the Americas. Music. Oh my gosh, yes. Religion. Very big time. Now, you don't really think about Santeria. Santeria, that doesn't sound like a African-sounding word, so it doesn't make sense to me. Resistance. Language rhythms. Certainly that goes into the music part of this. Transatlantic slave trade. Whoa. Oops. Forgot about that. Transatlantic slave trade. Ongoing diasporic trauma and strength. Ooh. Vocabulary word. Diasporic. Or diasporic. Diasporic probably is the way that's pronounced. Number 6. 6 out of 11. Oh, this is going to be really hard to remember. So you'll see how well I do at the end of this and see if you think I'm doing pretty good. East Asian. East Asian. Han. Chinese. The Han Chinese. I'm not sure what the Han is part of that. The Japanese. The Koreans. I think we're pretty well aware of that. What's their traditions? Confucianism, Taoism, Zen, high civilization and innovation. They came up with gunpowder, good chemistry stuff, stereotyping, model minority pressures, cultural erasure. Oops. Remember the internment camps during World War II. If you were of Japanese descent, then automatically you're the enemy. Did you send the planes? Did you crash into the ships in the harbor, in Pearl Harbor? No, you didn't have anything to do with it, but still you're an enemy. That's a pretty typical way to do things in wartime. South Asians. South Asians. I never thought of India as Asia, but India is Asia. South Asian, because if you look on the map, India's way down south there by the Indian Ocean. Vedic traditions. The caste system. Hey, you talk about prejudice and categorization based on external things. The caste system was horrible and is probably still practiced today. Mahatma Gandhi said, oh, let's get rid of that caste system. Very philosophical. And you have a lot of gurus that came up with mystic things where they brought the West in there and tried to get a bunch of money from them so that they could teach them about yoga, which is, well, yoga. Let me just say that. Get out your yoga mat and practice. People who have been spread or dispersed from their homeland. So when you're answering my test question about diaspora, think of dispersed. People have been dispersed. Like the Jewish people, they dispersed them from Israel and they experienced diaspora. How's that? Sounds like something you need to get medicine for. Middle Eastern. Look, we're at 8 out of 11. Here's 11, so I think we're going to make it. Just keep on going. Don't touch that dial. Don't turn it off. Keep going. Middle Eastern and North African peoples. Arabs. Persians. Now, which of Kurds, Berbers, Jews? Now, which of these are Iranian? I bet you'd think it's Arabs, right? But you'd be wrong. That'd be Persians. Persians. And the Kurds, the Kurds, they have not had a good way to go. They've had gas bombs put against them and all sorts of weapons. The Kurds never get along too well. They're in pretty bad shape. Plus, the Jews. Oh my gosh, the Jews. They have had such a problem that now they have the nuclear bomb because they want to make sure they don't get wiped out. The Berbers. Don't know much about the Berbers. Now, here's what it's hard to believe is that it's the cradle of civilization. 3 world religions. Ancient empires. Here's the problem. Modern complexity, conflicts often overshadow shared cultural roots. So you've got Middle Eastern and North African peoples fighting each other. Even though they have that commonality, that doesn't matter. They're going to wipe each other out. Latin Americans. Latin American and indigenous. The Jewish people are all over the place. And they have a lot of trouble with being persecuted. Intellectuals. The Jewish are very smart. And they adapt their culture to the ones they're in. Just, that's the way it has to be. Challenges. Anti-Semitism. Internal diversity often misunderstood. Who did we forget? And when I did the first search, this was forgotten. Australia. Those people that are out on the Barbie making their meat, they probably aren't thinking about the Aborigines. The longest culture on Earth. How long does their culture last? 60,000 years. Can you believe that? 60,000 years? Now, I bet they've had a lot of problems with the Aussies. I mean, with the who settled the Aussies? Why, it was the Germanic tribes. Now we're learning how these little culture groups fit in, and we need to understand people based on their culture groups, because that's who they really are. They aren't just some generic human. It just doesn't work that way. So let's see what we got. Colonial trauma. Stolen generations. Their spiritual core is dream time. Land-based consciousness and songlines. I bet those Aborigines are pretty much fun people. Stolen generations, cultural erasure, and land theft. Does that sound familiar? That's North America! So you've got another group of Germanic tribes that love to erase cultures and steal their land. Not so much so in Mexico, not so much so in South America. Let's look to them as better examples. A radically different model of knowledge, time, and soulfulness. So it'd be nice if I could have an Aboriginal guest on my YouTube video. That'll be there's a fat chance of that. So there is a revival, reconnection movements, art, voice in national identity. So maybe the Aborigines are coming back. Now that I've covered up your cheat sheet, what are the 11 major, what do we call them, ethnic groups or whatever? Let's say the 11 major origins. Well, let's start with the one we just talked about. Number 11. The Aborigines, Germanic tribes, because that's what we started there. Okay, that's 2. Let me get my hand in the screen. That's 2. Celtics, the Irish, and the Scots. Then you have Slavic. We've got 4 so far. Just think of one. West African, that's where most of the, quote, black people come from. Listen, they're not black. They're brown, for goodness sakes. And let's see, what's next? We got the West African. We might as well include the North Africans and what's that called? Well, that's the Middle Eastern. That contains the North Africans. Might not think of it that way, but the North Africans have the same origins as the Arabs and the Persians and all that kind of thing. So this will represent 6. And what is 6? The Slavs, oh, don't forget about East Asian. That's the Chinese and the Japanese. I didn't do the indigenous people of North America. So that's 8, and I remember that word that I had a lot of trouble with, and that was diaspora, and that's the diaspora of the Jews. I cheated. I looked at the cheat sheet. Rich music of Latin America. What's the takeaway from all of this? When you meet somebody new and you don't know which of the 11 tribes they're from, why don't you ask them, are you East Asian? Are you Slavic? Are you Germanic? Probably won't be asking anybody, are you an Aborigine? Australia's way off the track. Isn't it a lot better to understand somebody? If you're going to put them into a category, let them put themselves into a category. And maybe this will prevent you from prejudice or prejudging the individual.